NFL Sunday Ticket is now on YouTube and YouTube TV, which means that you can stay close to your team even if you don't live in their town. Like, maybe you're a Raven who married a Seahawk who got a job in the land of the Falcons. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you can watch your team's out-of-market Sunday afternoon games no matter where you live, because you shouldn't have to change teams even if you change towns. NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to youtube.com/presale to get $50 off.
Terms and embargoes apply. Offer ends 9/19. No refund. Subscription auto renews.
Hey, Spotifyers. Click or tap the banner to listen to Rap Caviar, the freshest 50 hip-hop songs on the rawest playlist ever. Brought to you by our friends at Stars and the new season of Power Book 4, Force. Watch now, only on Stars and the Stars app.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Welcome to Wrexham. Celebrity owners Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds' small-town Welsh football club is fighting for a chance at promotion. These two Hollywood stars lead a team in the midst of history in the making, while dedicated staff and supporters hold on to a dream of returning the team and this working-class town in Wales to glory. FX's Welcome to Wrexham premieres September 12th on FX. Stream on Hulu.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with me, your host, Stephen Wallace, this week just before the start of National Racehorse Week, which begins on Saturday the 9th of September. In this podcast, you will be hearing from the trainer who came up with the idea of National Racehorse Week, Richard Phillips, who is our main guest, along with trainers Kim Bailey from Cheltenham and Ilka Gansera Leveque from Newmarket, plus stud owner Eileen Harte from Essex, who are all opening their doors to the general public to enlighten them about our wonderful industry. Richard will be going into detail about this key week for the racing industry, while Ilka, Kim and Eileen will be explaining why they are all passionate about the project and how much they all love the racehorse.
I'm immensely proud of what we do and the way we look after our horses. And I think it's really important we show off what we do to the general public.
So we want to engage with people that might not know the industry very well. And we want to open the doors to show them what a wonderful working environment that we have and the amazing way the horses are looked after.
They were a couple of short clips from Kim and Eileen to give you a feel of their love for the racehorse. But let's hear from Richard before the start of National Racehorse Week. Hello, Richard. Welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion to chat about National Racehorse Week.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me on. I'm delighted to chat about my favourite subject.
Well, are you ready then for your favourite subject, the week commencing the Saturday the 9th and finishing on Sunday the 17th of September?
Well, as ready as we ever be, but I think when I first came up with the idea of National Racehorse Day, what I wanted it to be was a celebration and a bit of fun. So I hope we're not going to stop it from being that. But we're opening our doors to about 100 people on Saturday morning who are going to have an insight to see how racehorses are trained. And in the last couple of years of National Racehorse Week, we've had about 300 guests just to come and see the horses around the yard. But I thought this year we'd do something different. So there's 100 people going to be on the gallops, seeing the horses exercised and also seeing various professionals, including exercise physiologists and dentists and masseurs and physiotherapists and farriers doing their bit. So hopefully it'll be interesting to the general public.
Oh, lots to see and do. And on this podcast, we're going to hear from two trainers and a stud owner. When and why did you come up with the idea of National Racehorse Week?
Well, as I've told a few people before, there's a vet, a friend of mine, who once said to me, do you ever go on to National Trainers Federation meetings? And he said, and I said, no, I don't really do committees. He said, well, people like you don't do it, then racing, especially jump racing, is going to be in trouble, because he said he's on international committees and things. Australians and Americans, they don't really understand too much about jump racing because they don't have a great history of jump racing in those countries. And he said that jump racing needs to be pushed forward a bit more because people need to know what a popular sport it is. And it's not as international as flat racing. So with that in my mind, I thought, you say, well, you should turn up these meetings. So I thought I should go to one of those National Trainers Federation meetings. And on my way there, it was National Nut Day. And I thought to myself, well, why don't we have National Racehorse Day? And the previous day, I'd read in the paper that Taylor Swift was going to sing at the Melbourne Cup. But she got a bit of abuse off her Twitter followers saying that, racing is not the most moral sport, that they thought it was a cruel sport. Because there unfortunately have been some fatalities in the Melbourne Cup, which of course nobody can ever sort of be anything other than upset about. But it is true, there had been some, and it's a flat race in Melbourne, and it's one of the biggest races in the world, and it's got an incredible following. But I read this and I thought, well, if this is what people think, we need to do something about it. If young people who don't know about it, I don't mind people not being a supporter of the sport if they've seen the facts and know how racehorses are treated, and they still don't approve of the sport. I accept that. But if they don't know, I think we should go on the front foot and show people that basically racehorses have the life that human beings should have. And so from that, I put forward the idea of National Racehorse Day. I saw the editor of the Racing Post at a function in Cheltenham, and I said, I've got an idea, Tom Kerr, of National Racehorse Day. So would you like to write an article about it? So I wrote an article in the Racing Post, and it seemed to get a lot of support. And to be fair to BHA, they got in contact straight away, the British Horse Racing Authority, and said, yeah, we like your idea, how can we bring it forward? So from then we had workshops and little meetings and Zooms, and it developed. And the first National Racehorse Week was, as I say, 2 years ago. It's the third year running. So, and it's gradually getting bigger and better. And it's a great way to basically open up the doors of racing. I think 120 trainers are opening their doors, many studs, many rehoming centres. There's lots of community engagement for the people who can't open their yards for various reasons. They're going out to the community or inviting the community to their stables, so that more and more people will know that a racehorse has a pretty good life, and that, what people do for racehorses and what racehorses do for people should be broadcast, and we should actually be proud of it.
So what's the most important message you're trying to put across during the week?
I think the message is that, we're all concerned with welfare. And what I really want is people to walk into yards or to engage with studs or rehoming centres or community engagement. And I think I want people to realise that as soon as you walk into a yard or meet a racehorse, people can tell if they're content or if they've got a good life or not. And I'm a lucky lad. I was brought up in Surrey near Epsom Racecourse. At the age of 6, I saw racehorses on the racetrack, and I used to walk to the start, the Derby start, the Epsom Derby, the greatest race in the world in many respects. And I was hooked at the age of 6. And I'm sure if a lot of young people came in and walked in the yards and actually not had experience of actually seeing these animals close up, you can't kid a kidder. They'll know straight away whether or not they're content horses or happy. And I think what I've really been pleased about the last couple of years, we've had, as I say, 300 guests each year. And when they walk into the yard and they see these horses, the horses just engage with people straight away. And I think people are amazed how friendly, content these horses are. And they wouldn't be if they weren't well looked after. And I think the one message I want to get across is the fact that, everyone in racing, to a man and a woman, is absolutely obsessed with the welfare of animals. And we don't want anything other than the best treatment for all animals. But there are other problems in the world that need to be focused on rather than racehorses' lives. So when it comes to people not supporting racing and not thinking it's a sport that should be supported and possibly might be immoral, I think I want to change the mind of people who basically have not experienced it. And basically when they have experienced it, I want them to think, racehorses have a great life, and also to tell other people. So I want that experience to happen. And I think we've got 13,000 people coming over the week visiting yards, etc., and having that experience. And those 13,000 people, I hope, will go away with a good experience and go and tell others as well. So that's what I really want people to know. It's the fact that don't worry about racehorses. And in fact, us humans should learn a lot from how racehorses are looked after. And I'd love them to go away and think, well, actually, I personally should have a fitness program, a balanced diet, 24-hour care, private medical health care. I should be a member of a gym. I should be having physio regularly. I should be having all these things that racehorses have, because I'd be a healthier human being if I did. And I really would like them to go away with that message.
That's very well put there, Richard. When do plans begin for 2023, or do they never sort of stop with 2022 and 2021 and every year?
Well, I'm pleased to be on a steering group. As I said, committees I'm not a fan of, but I must admit that racing is really coming together, hopefully, on this, because it is the celebration of the thoroughbred racehorse. And you can't deny that's a good thing. If you didn't want to celebrate the racehorse, then you're in the wrong game. But luckily, I know we're all very busy people, but luckily it does seem to be something that people can really get round to agreeing on and working together on. So I'm very pleased that gradually over the years, the last 2 or 3 years, we're getting more and more take up, more and more people are getting behind this. So it's trainers, jockeys, owners, stable staff, farriers, vets, race goers, race courses, all those massive group of people that basically support what is over a £4 billion industry to Britain. All those people involved are getting it around the fact that, for 1 week of the year, we need to celebrate the racehorse, and we need to show Britain actually and the world how good we are at looking after these animals. So I think that that message is getting across. So I'm pleased to say it's a build-up, and I'm pleased to say I'm on a steering group that is never stopping of thinking of ways to push it forward. And I suspect once the 17th of September is over, we'll be learning lessons and looking on the 18th of September what we're going to do in 2024 and for the years to come.
Well, talking of trainers, let's begin by hearing from Cheltenham Gold Cup winning and Grand National winning trainer Kim Bailey. And this is what he had to say about National Racehorse Week.
Well, I think it's very good for the industry, and I take my hat off to Richard Phillips for organising or supporting the whole situation. The first year we struggled to get 30 people turn up, and then last year we doubled that, and this year we've opened it up completely. I've always been a great advocate that there's no such thing as a gate at the end of my drive, and people can drive up anytime they like. If anybody ever emails me or rings me and says, "Can they have a look round?" I'll always say yes. I'm immensely proud of what we do and the way we look after our horses, and I think it's really important we show off what we do to the general public, because there's a definite air of mystery about racehorse trainers, gone are the days when I like to think that we are unapproachable, and we are approachable. And I think people can come up now and talk to a racehorse trainer, and be involved with the whole situation without a worry. I get back some years ago when there was a couple of people parked at the end of my drive, and my staff went past them and they said, "What is this?" And they said, "It's a racehorse trainer." And they said, "Oh, that's interesting." And they said, "If you drive up the drive, Mr. Bailey will show you around." They drove up the drive. There were a couple of Aussies, and they had never been to a racing yard in their life. And they came round, thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and went back to Sydney and whatever. And then bizarrely, they were having dinner one day in a restaurant. I think Angus Gold was on the next door table talking about horses, and they brought it up and said, "Oh, would you know Kim Bailey?" And he said yes, because I've known Angus for ages. So we had the most wonderful experience. We couldn't believe we could just walk into someone's office and be shown around the yard. We'd never forgotten it.
So you think it makes a difference?
I think it helps. We get a lot of abuse. Trainers, every time something goes badly, a horse runs badly, or God forbid a horse gets injured, the emails and telephone calls we get are horrendous. I don't think people really believe what we talk about. But I mean, it's pretty shocking when you get people threatening to kill your family and burn your stables down. And we all know it's usually some person who's lost a fiver, and that's a way of venting their anger. But I also I've had people in the past who really have pestered me and given me a very, very hard time, and when they've made a mistake of not withholding their number, and I've managed to get them, I've always got them to apologise. But they hide behind fake emails and they hide behind withheld telephone numbers, and they can be as abusive as they like. Makes you realise what a politician must go through. But so I think by opening the doors, it gives everybody a chance to see actually really what goes on and the love and attention these horses get, and the people involved in the sport, the people who work in the sport and everybody else involved in any direction of the sport, the care that goes and the love that goes with it is huge.
Remind me, Richard, how many trainers have you got involved, and are they all around the country?
Yeah, I think it's really important that throughout Britain, Wales, Scotland and England, there's many, many racehorse trainers in each of those countries and throughout Britain. And I'm pleased to say that regionally, if you go onto nationalracehorseweek.uk, you'll see all the places are open. I think they're near enough full, but please do check because obviously we can't, you have to register to turn up because, we don't have the facilities to have thousands of people visiting. But by having a website, which was kindly sponsored by the Peter O'Sullivan Trust, so Sir Peter O'Sullivan, the great racecourse commentator, BBC commentator, and one of the few people that through the decades that non-racing lovers would know the name of Sir Peter. He was a great man, a great commentator, great broadcaster, and a great lover of horses, as particularly a racehorse. And I think he'd be particularly delighted. He passed away a few years ago now, but he'd be particularly delighted that his trust has basically sponsored the website, which by going on that website, you'll be able to seek a place wherever you live in Britain. You put your postcode in, it'll tell you a stable or a stud or a retraining centre near you where you could visit. And also from that, we can find out what we really want to do is not just racing fans turning up, we want all sorts of people throughout Britain turning up, whether you've been to a race course in your life or whether you've seen a racehorse before or not. We want as many people as possible. And I think 87% of visitors last year had not had a regular association with racing. So we're really keen on getting people who have not necessarily been to a racing yard before to go and visit. So by going on that website, nationalracehorseweek.uk, you'll see a lot of action on there and a lot of ways to get involved.
That's important, isn't it, to get people who are not connected with racing to be the care and attention given to horses.
Absolutely, and I think it's how you do that. And when I first sort of came up with the idea, one of the reasons I wanted to do it is not only that, but also members of Parliament. I think it's a huge opportunity to invite members of Parliament from whatever party, because I think, be amazed how many of the electorate are involved in racing, have an interest in racing, can have a share in a racehorse. You don't have to have millions of pounds. You can have a share a successful racehorse for 40 quid these days or something like that. So there's so many people who are involved and love the sport. And I really am keen to get as many people from outside the industry and the MPs of Britain to actually get an invitation to a yard and visit a yard. And I was privileged enough to be invited yesterday to BHA, the British Horse Racing Authority, had a reception, the racing industry, showing all the good things that are going on within the industry when it comes to the welfare of horses and humans. And there were a lot of MPs in attendance yesterday, and I think it's something we can really build on. And there's a lot of discussion at the moment about prize money and the levy and also the Gambling Commission. But I hope we all recognise that this is a really important sport for the country, and not only a sport, it's an industry. And we're talking about people's lives here that are improved and changed by the thoroughbred racehorse. So celebrating the racehorse is a very important thing, and you can do that throughout Britain. And I think only by getting people who are not involved in the sport and MPs who might not know about the sport involved will we improve the situation.
Yes, because many years ago, the MPs, many of them would have had horses themselves.
Well, funny you should say that. This is a fascinating thing. I think the public don't know how much of a connection with a lot of people they know have with horse racing. So, for instance, Winston Churchill, one of the most famous people in history. His father owned an Oaks winner. So Winston also rode winners in point to points, and he bred some very good horses. He had a stud himself, and he had a horse called Colonist II. He was a a great influence on his life and the thoroughbred's life. And the winner of our Guess the Weight of a Racehorse competition on Saturday morning will receive a bottle of Paul Roger champagne, which is Sir Winston Churchill's favourite champagne. And I'm giving a bottle of that particularly so I can mention the fact that Winston Churchill was a great lover of racing. Simon Cowell has owned a Derby winner. Did you know that? He was a member of the Royal Ascot Racing Club, a motivator who won the Derby a few years ago, trained by Michael Bell, ridden by Johnny Murtagh. That horse skated home in the Epsom Derby, and I think there were 400 owners of that, including Simon Cowell. Anton Deck, owners of racehorses in the past. Dame Judi Dench. Some of the great people of Britain love and support racing, and I think it's one of the things about National Racehorse Week is to get that across. That do you really think Dame Judi Dench or Simon Cowell, a lover of dogs, would ever be involved in sport if he thought that their horses were not kept to the highest standard of welfare? No way. So the more we get that message across, the more we're going to win fans, more fans in racing.
Well, Dame Judi owned the winner of the Lincoln Handicap, I think. Yes,
absolutely. Trained by Mark Tompkins, I think. But yeah, Dame Judi loves racing, and I know people who know her well, and she loves a day out at Lingfield. And she was quoted as saying she wanted to teach her grandchildren two things: how to drink champagne and how to place a bet. So that's not the most politically correct statement, but we all love Dame Judi.
Yes, we all love Dame Judi. Another trainer opening up for National Racehorse Week is Newmarket-based Ilka Gansera Leveque, who has a fine art gallery, and she's also staging an education day on Saturday the 16th of September. And this is what Ilka had to say. What have you got planned at St Wendred's in Newmarket at the home of horse racing?
I have plans that the gallery is going to be open every evening from 5 to 7 p.m. So that'll be in a nice setting. Come and look at the art. We have that international array of artists, and we have, we specialize in equine art and, horse racing in art. So like a type of sporting art, but we also have wildlife art, still life, landscapes, seascapes, nature. And it's art that makes you feel good, and also the beauty and hard work. Those are the two main things in the art. And then I have Saturday the 16th. I'm going to do a traditional open day, but usually we do them in the mornings, but I'm going to do them like during evening stables when there's stuff going on. And I've called it the education day because we're going to have a talk about horse head anatomy and all the bidding aspects of having bits in horses' mouths. And then I'm having my physio do a demo and also answer questions of the public. And then on the Sunday, I'm doing my charity day for 4 tickets for troops.
And the art gallery is going to be open during National Racehorse Week between 5 and 7 p.m. in the evening.
Yeah, I thought that would be nice for people to pop in. So to pop in, have a look at the art, have a chat, see the horses. It's kind of like towards the end of evening stables. By 7, evening stables is always over, but kind of towards the end, and then people can pop in after work or something like that, and just wander around, have a look. We have 3 beautiful gallery spaces, different than your regular high street gallery. It's a good setting, and it's a relaxed setting. It's a nice atmosphere. It makes people, just come and look and take in the beauty.
And the education day, that includes Olivier Turner and Catherine Stevens.
Yeah, Catherine Stevens is my regular physio. She's also taken part already in previous open days that we've had. She's always invited to every event I do. Sometimes I put her to work. She's always been a great supporter of the yard. She's been part of almost every horse's journey in my yard. So yeah, she'll be here as a great person to ask questions. And she has such she used to be a pediatric physiotherapist at Addenbrooke's, running the ship there. And she has that ACPAT accreditation. So that's like human and equine. And then Olivia Turner is a person she's a bidding expert and a behavioral expert, and also a great person to pick the brains of.
Important for racing fans and people that don't follow racing to find out about these things and again illustrate the care that the horses receive.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes, because I have no idea who booked, because it's free, but you're supposed to like book your space. So I have no idea, because it's going through through the National Racehorse Week platform. So maybe there'll be a bunch of strangers, maybe there'll be familiar faces, but there's something for everybody, whether, it's something from the bidding talk. If you're a horse owner yourself, it'll apply to you just as well as it applies to racehorses, and you'll have an opportunity to speak to Olivia directly. Maybe you have concerns of your own, or you're working on some kind of issue with your horse. So that'll be great. And then the same with Catherine, it'll muscles and tensions and issues, like whether you're the rider or the horse, there'll be a lot of take-home messages for anybody from any walk of life.
On the last day of National Racehorse Week, this Sunday, the 17th of September, you also have a charity day for a charity quite close to your heart.
Yeah, it's a charity called Tickets for Troops. I told National Racehorse Week organizers I'll do a charity event as long as it's for the armed forces, and then they suggested Tickets for Troops, and I'm glad to be a part of that and be opening my doors to them. So it's going to be great.
To end, Ilka, how much are you looking forward to being part of National Racehorse Week?
Well, like I said, it's a new thing for me, and I think it's very well organized. They have a good website, and I'm really looking forward to it. And seeing who's going to show up here.
Education, that's very important for National Racehorse Week, Richard.
It really is. And I think it's right at the root of it all, really, is the fact that education sometimes doesn't have a great image, but it can be enormous fun learning about things. And we are basically trying to educate both the young, old, and the middle-aged about our sport. And for people to know the facts, really, that 99.5% of horses do not have a serious injury or a fatality on a racetrack. We always want to limit it to the minutest detail, but inevitably in life there will be, unfortunately, fatalities. But in nature there would be more fatalities than that, and I want the public to be educated in the fact that enormous measures are taken, both on a racetrack and both at home in their training, to make sure that they are given the best possible treatment at all times, whatever the situation. So on a racetrack, for instance, they're surrounded by professional vets throughout. And if I'm being frank with you, one of the most upsetting parts of my life was to see one horse that, unfortunately, during a night, ran through a fence, and I was not there when the accident happened, and no one was, because it was the middle of the night. On a racetrack, that situation would have been dealt with immediately, and the horse would not have suffered. Unfortunately, the horse in question, in nature, did suffer. So I think people can make their own judgment about that. But I think once the general public know the efforts that go into and the incredible levels of welfare that are given to racehorses, I think they'll be very satisfied that the industry, the sport, is doing everything it can. So education is enormously important. And as I say, hopefully on Saturday morning, one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing is that I've got Dr. George Wilson, a great Liverpudlian. He's a great musician. He worked for Martin Pipe and Josh Gifford, two great trainers, and he was amateur rider to both. And he's now a doctor of exercise physiology, both human and equine. He's dealt a lot with jockeys, and a lot of jockeys go and see him about dealing with their health, about their controlling their weight and their fitness. And he also uses heart monitors on racehorses and got us to do the same. And on Saturday morning in our yard, we'll be having heart monitors on some of the horses to make sure that they are fit and healthy. And again, I want the public to be educated the fact that when these racehorses actually get onto a racetrack, the enormous effort has gone into making sure these horses don't go on the track unless they're fit and healthy. And as I said before, if only we treated humans as well.
Another part of racing opening its doors during National Racehorse Week is studs. And I spoke to Eileen Harte, a stud farm owner with her husband Keith in Essex. And this is what Eileen had to say about National Racehorse Week.
So we want to engage with people that might not know the industry very well. And we want to open the doors to show them what a wonderful working environment that we have, and the amazing way the horses are looked after. So it feels like some people think it's quite a closed industry. That's the impression we get. So this week, National Racehorse Week, is an amazing opportunity to open the doors and to extend a welcome to people who, as I said, may not be involved with the industry, but they like horses and they just want to see a bit more of what goes on.
What have you got planned for your day?
So for our day, we are a stud farm. So we are in the middle of sales preparation. So getting yearlings ready to go to the sales mainly in October. So we're going to just parade some of those yearlings and explain what we're doing, the process of getting them ready for the sales. So it'd be very much like a working day at a stud farm for this time of the year. And just a little bit of background information about how a horse gets from being a foal to the racecourse.
I guess you've done this in previous years of National Racehorse Week. How have you found the reaction from the public?
Well, interestingly, Stephen, this is our first time to open the doors. We moved to this farm recently. So we're very excited to be involved with this initiative, which we think is just wonderful. And we have had some open events in the past, and we're always really pleased with the feedback and the way people have been quite shocked at the 5-star treatment horses get. And that's really what we want to show, is we want to show how well these horses are cared for.
You sound really enthusiastic about your event on the 13th.
Yeah, I really can't wait. I mean, it's a bit daunting because I don't know the people that are coming. So normally I'd have a guest list and invitations sent out, but this is very much an open door to anybody who wants to come and see what happens at a stud farm during this time of year. But I'm also really excited to introduce people to our industry, show them around, and answer any questions that they might have.
With sales coming up, it's a good time to be able to show people what goes on at a stud farm. Yeah,
it is really. I mean, a lot of people are under the impression that we just foal mares and have, lovely, cute babies running around. But the season is 12 months now. There's always something going on. And the work never really relents. So it's, any time of year is a good time to come and see the farm. And it's different. Whatever time you come during the year, there'll be something different happening, which I think is great as well.
How important is the week for the racing industry, especially in this current environment?
So being in the industry for so many years, it's hard for me to understand that people think anything differently about the welfare of our horses. And I think opening the doors is a great opportunity for us to show how well they're cared for. And as you mentioned, there have been incidents this year, and we just need to be more open about what happens behind the doors. And I think we're a very, very good industry at doing that. And I just think it's an opportunity for people to ask questions and, all of those things that might be niggling them about racing and about breeding. And because we have the answers and we can tell them from a professional, from a welfare point of view, how this industry looks after their horses. And it's a great opportunity for us to be able to do that.
It's a real week when racing can showcase the industry.
Yeah, it's a super opportunity. And I was personally overwhelmed with the amount of people that wants to come to a small stud farm in Essex. And so I have 40 guests coming, and I'm just thrilled that people have logged on to the website and the National Racehorse Week website and found different places to go and visit. And I really applaud everyone who's opened up their farms and training yards for this week, because I think it's a really brilliant opportunity for us to showcase what we do and to show how much we care for the horse and how the priority that we put the horse's welfare at.
How many studs have you got open, Richard?
Well, the timing of National Racehorse Week is deliberate in the fact that it is the second week of September, because when it comes to flat yards and jumping yards, the horses obviously look great in their condition. The jump horses are just getting their fitness together for the beginning of the jump season proper, when the ground eases in October, November. The flat horses have been on the go probably since March or April, but still look great in their coats. One problem is that with the stud world, that a lot of studs throughout Britain are preparing young horses for sales. And so it doesn't suit all studs to open their yards. It is, to some studs, an opportunity to actually invite the public in to see the foals and the yearlings and the broodmares, etc., and the stallions doing their thing, as it were, and an opportunity to see yearlings be prepared and for yearling preparation. And also, I know some stud owners are looking forward to the fact that they've got a small gathering coming, so that their yearlings, who are then going to be sold in the next few months, have the opportunity and the education to be paraded in front of a group of people. So, but it's not ideal timing for the stud world. It's a very, very busy time of year for them, but I'm delighted that some of them are opening, and the ones that can't open are certainly doing something. I made a point when I first came up with the idea, not everyone's expected to open and do, but as long as everyone does something, and some of the studs are just doing other things, community engagements, for instance. They can't necessarily have huge amounts of people, but they can invite various communities to their yards. For instance, September is a coffee morning for the Macmillan nursing. So, there's lots of ways that the thoroughbred breeding industry can help, and I'm delighted to say they are. And I think that is something that will build up over the coming years.
You mentioned community there, and I've got a quote from Natalie O'Rourke, who's been on this podcast on several occasions, the owner of Park Lane Stables. And this is what she said. National Racehorse Week really bridges the gap between us and the racing industry. It allows the people that attend our centre to get a glimpse of the inside of the racing industry. And I know you just mentioned about visits, that some of the members of Park Lane Stables last year went to Richard Hannon's yard. Yes, I mean, delighted to say that Park Lane are a group of people, are doing some great work. And a young member of the team there, who I met at a community engagement get-together at Ascot Racecourse a few months ago, came to us on work experience recently. And I'm pleased to say that he's due to have an interview at the British Racing School soon. And hopefully there's a young man that's going to come into the industry and have a great career. So Park Lane Stables doing a great job. But again, very important that, I didn't come from a racing background. My father's a civil servant in Whitehall. You don't have to come from a racing background. I find the racing people to be very, very open and honest and welcoming. And I want other people to realise that. And so I'm delighted to welcome people from city life, town life, into the countryside, or wherever these racehorses are trained, to show them what we do and to give them the opportunity to see the way racehorses are trained. And maybe that might be a good career for a lot of young people who would otherwise never been exposed to the racing industry. So Park Lane Stables and alike are involved. I'm delighted to get them involved, and we want more and more of them involved, because we realise there's so many people in Britain who, if they were exposed to the wonderful life of the thoroughbred racehorse, they not only want to follow that industry, they might well want to work in it. Yeah, I think spreading the gospel of racing to big towns and cities is crucial. Absolutely is. And I think there's been
for no one particular fault, there has been a bigger divide between city and countryside over the last few decades, and I'm very keen to try and bridge that gap. And I'm really pleased with how National Racehorse Week has tried to connect with cities, and I'm sure there's lots of other ideas and ways we can do that. For instance, there's so many footballers who like horse racing, and a lot of people don't know that Mick Shannon from our decades is now a racehorse trainer, and he was a top footballer. A lot of England footballers, Jordan Henderson's, Michael Owens, they have racehorses and love the sport. And I think if a lot of young people knew that, that's a sort of connection that people want. And once they see that, they think, oh, maybe it's something I'd like to try or witness and see how we get on. And I think if we got those sort of advocates involved, that helps at bridging that gap between city and countryside.
Of course, going back, we had race courses at places like Manchester and Birmingham, which did connect city people to the racehorse. Absolutely. And,
but interestingly, Kempton is not very far from London. And I always wonder why we don't get more racegoers going to these places near cities. But if we use our imagination and enthusiasm, I'm sure we can increase it.
Very important to make the sport as inclusive as possible to everyone in the country.
There's a book written by Kate Fox, an anthropologist, that was commissioned, I think, by the BHB, the British Horse Racing Board as it was then, who I think did some work for Tony Blair in the previously or since, right? This book called The Racing Tribe. And if you ever read that book, The Racing Tribe, racing came across very well in The Racing Tribe because it looked as though there were lots of barriers, but there weren't. When you go racing, you don't have to have a bet, but if you do have £2 on a horse, you can be a winner, whereas the billionaire has had £2 million worth of yearling or 2-year-old run around the field and come last. It's a great level of the sport. And if you get involved and start to understand it, you realise that the barriers aren't there and that you really can, the common theme is the racehorse. And whoever you are, whatever background you come from, however much money you have in your wallet, it really does come down to the racehorse and how much you like it and how much you're interested in it. And people don't recognise what car you've turned up in and what clothes you're wearing. Racehorses don't at all recognise any of that. What they recognise is they sense people who like them. And so you can come from any background and love racehorses.
So to wind up today's show, how excited are you now about next week?
Well, anyone who knows me now, I'm not the type to get excited. I like to concentrate hard on making it the best possible experience. So when it's all over, there'll be a sense of relief for 1 year, and then we start again for the next. But I am very pleased to see the industry grabbing hold of the idea. And there's a lot of people making a huge amount of effort. I think the trainers of Britain have been brilliant in embracing this idea, and I think others are following. So excited. I'll probably be excited at the end of it, but during it, I'll be concentrating on making sure that we do everything we can to get the message across, because we're passionate about celebrating a racehorse and all the good things that humans do for racehorses, and equally all the great things racehorses do for humans. Because when it comes to mental health and other such problems in society, undoubtedly, I'm very lucky to be a trustee of a charity called Heroes, which brings young people from disadvantaged backgrounds into education between the age of 11 and 15. And instead of going to a normal educational school, they work with racehorses, ex-racehorses. They also learn English and maths in a classroom very close to the stables, then go back to look after horses. And some people are just made to work with animals. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who, if they're surrounded by animals, especially the racehorse, such a gentle and wonderful beast, I'm sure their lives would be improved. And that's ultimately the message we want to put across.
And one thing that National Racehorse can do is potentially reach more and more people.
Yes, and that's why it's really important that those within the industry tell everyone else. And we've got to reach out not just to the racing people, but to all sports and to the Parliament and to the media that we are basically an open sport, ready to be examined, but proud, and basically realise that Britain are a fine example of how animals should be treated and the welfare of animals. And as I say, treating them probably better than we do humans. So I think we should be proud and on the front foot of showing that to all people in Britain.
Thank you, Richard. Remind us of the dates and where we can find information about National Racehorse Week. Well,
it begins this Saturday, 9th of September, running through to the 17th of September. And nationalracehorseweek.uk is the website you can go to, and you'll see lots of information of how you can get involved there. And also, there's the Henry Cecil weekend at Newmarket. Newmarket is the basically the home of racing in Britain, and they have a special weekend the following weekend. So if you do miss out on the 9th to 17th, you can always go to Newmarket. They've got a fantastic weekend. They've got racing, they've got yards open, they've got lots of interesting things going on for the public over a 2-day period. So the following weekend, after the 17th, 16th and 17th, there's Newmarket as well. So there's no excuse. Lots of things to look at, lots of people to get involved with. And looking forward to getting bigger and better every year.
Well, thank you very much, Richard, for spending time with me this afternoon.
No, delighted, and looking forward to, like you and all of us, getting involved in yet another National Racehorse Week, and looking forward to years to come. Many thanks.
Sports Social Podcast Network.